Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to another edition of MSATP TV. Joining us today is Rob Smith to talk to us about the use of Teams through Microsoft 365. So, Rob, why don't you get us started with Microsoft Teams?
Okay, well, let's go ahead and get started. So Bill, basically, from what my experience with most people with Teams is they kind of compare it to Zoom. They think, oh, I'm using Teams because they're using it just like Zoom. Would you concur?
Yes, I would.
Yeah.
So I know that Teams will do a whole lot more than what I'm using it for. So I'm sure that most of our listeners here also have that same issue. That Teams is a neat program, but it's got a lot more power than what I'm using it for.
That's exactly right. So let's go ahead and basically take a look. So basically, once again, my name is Rob Smith. I'm working at Liscio, and I'm here to basically kind of help you guys understand that Microsoft 365 needs to become the thing that you learn in 2022. Because if you do, it will completely change your firm internally. And more importantly, once it's changed it internally and you've mastered it, you're going to be able to go in there and go to your clients and create a brand new revenue source that is brand new and is the next big wave that's going to basically completely change the way you do your practice. So let's go ahead and get started.
All right, thank you.
Okay, so right now, if you think about it, there's this myth that we only use 10% of our brains. Okay. But that's basically just a myth because we're using our whole brains. But in reality, I would guess that most people are using 10% of Teams, if that.
I would agree with that.
Yes, because guess what? Teams is not just online meetings like Zoom. Okay. Wait, what's... Okay. Basically, yeah, it's okay. My PowerPoint's messed up a little bit, but basically Teams is a lot more than just PowerPoint. I'm sorry. Teams is a lot more than just Zoom. It's more than just online meetings. It's going to contain your internal communication. It's going to contain your documents. It can contain your tasks and so much more. Okay. So first of all, what is a team? This is Microsoft's definition of what a team is. It's a group of people gather to get something big done in your organization. And sometimes it's your entire organization. And teams are made up of channels, which the conversations which you have with your teammates. And then each channel is dedicated to a specific topic, department, or project. I struggled with that for a while. I didn't really get what they were going with this. This is kind of visually what it looks like inside Teams.
Okay.
Here's the way I look at Teams. Okay. So let's picture Teams like your 365 account as a building.
All right.
Okay. So your entire staff can go inside the building, right? So your 365 tenant is a big building. Now, a building has floors, right?
Right.
So what you're going to do is you're going to build this building and you're going to add floors for every floor that you need in your building. And basically a floor, which is essentially a team in Microsoft Teams. So when I'm talking about creating a team, think about adding a floor.
Okay.
And on that floor, you're going to give access to a group of people. And you're going to give them some workspace and the tool set they need to get the job done.
Okay.
Make sense?
So
we've got a building and we're going to add floors, which are teams.
Okay.
Inside the floor, you don't just have one big empty space, right?
Right.
You add room. Pardon?
Right.
You have rooms. And that's what the channels are. So when you think of a channel, think of a room on a floor.
Okay.
And inside that room is where you're going to do the work for that project or topic or mini department. Okay.
All right.
Okay. So when I talk about a group of people, access to a floor, there are 3 types of floors that you can have that are going to give people access. Okay.
All right.
First of all, there's something called an organization-wide team or an organization-wide floor. You only get 5 of these, so be very careful in basically creating a team that's organization-wide. What happens when you create an org-wide team, that means everybody in your firm is automatically joined to that team.
Okay.
And by default, when you create your 365, there's going to be a team in there that is an org-wide team called your company name.
Okay.
Think of that as your company team or the lobby, the first floor of your building.
All right.
Your employees are going to be able to come into that floor, everybody, and see stuff that everybody on the company should be able to see.
All right.
Make sense? Then we've got public floors. Some floors are going to be public, which means any coworker can join.
All right.
They don't need permission. They can just automatically join it.
Okay.
Okay. Now, when I says public, it doesn't mean people outside your company, just people, coworkers. Okay.
Okay.
Now, there's going to be some floors that you're going to want to be private.
Okay.
And they need an invitation, invite only. Okay.
Internal people as well as external.
That's exactly right. That was the next bullet point right here. Was we can also invite external users that are called guests. So in some cases, you can invite people outside of your building onto certain floors.
Okay.
Okay. So you understand the idea of how we have access for the different floors or teams.
Right.
Okay. So now let's talk about a channel. So when you go in there and you create a floor, by default, the floor is empty. It has no rooms.
Okay.
Okay. But there is one room called a general channel. And think of that as your front desk.
Okay.
Okay. So when you walk into the floor, you walk out of the elevator and you see the front desk.
All right.
That is called the general channel.
Okay.
So if you don't know, if there's not a specific room to put something, just leave it off at the front desk.
Okay.
Okay. So, but then what you're going to do is you can't just leave everything on the front desk. Pretty soon you're going to have to add different rooms to kind of, or because if everything's on the front desk, then nothing's organized, right?
Right.
So pretty soon what you're going to do is you're going to start to create rooms on this floor, which are basically channels.
Okay.
Okay. So when you add a channel, it's like adding a room to a floor. Now here's the problem. You have a limit of 200 rooms per floor.
Okay.
Okay. And if you are a member of that floor or a member of that team, you have access to all the rooms.
Okay.
Okay. However, there is something called private channels or private rooms. You can create those. And in those cases, if you do that, then it's kind of like a lock on that door, and only certain people or certain members of that floor can actually access those rooms.
Okay.
And those are called private channels. You want to kind of use those sparingly. Don't go crazy with them. If you're creating too many private rooms, then chances are you may need another entire floor.
Okay.
Okay. So got to be careful of creating too many private channels. Okay.
Okay.
So let's think about that first floor. Okay. What rooms or what channels would that first floor, that company lobby, exist of? Okay. These are channels or rooms that would consist of information that the entire staff needs.
Okay.
Okay. Well, what if we had a room for announcements? So all corporate announcements happened in this one place.
Okay.
Like a holiday coming up. We're closing office early on Friday. Hey, there's a big, security breach, email that we have to worry about, whatever.
Right.
That would be the one place where all company announcements go to, right?
Okay.
You see where you could go through there and then just scroll back up and see everything, right?
Right.
Would it be nice to have a place for like a water cooler where people can go and just chat about, Ted Lasso, or share the latest cat meme, or talk about the NCAA?
Right.
This gives them a place to actually go and be human and actually enjoy, your coworker, fellow coworkers, right? So that would be.
Most people use that water cooler channel.
Pardon?
I think most people use that water cooler channel, and that's about it in Teams.
Yes, but we're going to do so much more with it. Okay. Right. We could have a room for the employee handbook, so they could go to this room and learn everything that they need to know about being an employee handbook. Or maybe we could have policies and procedures, or really anything else that the entire staff would need.
Okay.
Make sense for the first floor?
Yeah.
Cool. Okay. Now let's think of like an accounting department, not as an accounting firm, but an internal accounting department. Okay. What rooms do you think we would need for accounting department?
Sales, accounts receivable, payables.
Payroll, month end.
Payroll.
How about those? Would those be good rooms? So we have an accounts payable room where we deal with vendors. So if we're dealing with a vendor or accounts payable or anything related to that, we go into that room and all of our work is done there. Documents are stored there. We chat about stuff, but everything, you see how everything is now, we know exactly where it is. So if there is information that we need to discuss about the internal accounts payable, we go to the accounting floor, and then we go to the accounts payable room.
Okay.
You just, it's right there.
Right.
Teams, channels, okay? And then any other teams that you want. Now, in some cases, what we may want to do, and I didn't do this on this one right here, but payroll might need to be a private channel, right?
Right.
We may need to lock on that one door, but the rest of them, it's okay.
Okay.
So this is so far what your firm is going to look like. So the first floor is going to be the corporate-wide, organization-wide staff with the water cooler and all that stuff. We may have a floor called for just partners. Okay. We may have a floor for just partners that is going to be private because it's going to be invite only, right? And we're only going to invite the partners in. We may have a floor for training and procedures where you're going to do all of your training and set up all your procedures corporate wide.
Mm-hmm.
So think about this. Let's say you're like, you got tax software.
Okay.
You could have a room in your training floor for your tax software.
Okay.
So anytime anybody had any kind of question, they could go to that room and talk about how you use your tax software.
Okay.
If you get a PDF or you get materials that teach you about the tax software, go to the training floor, the tax software room, and that's where you're going to find it.
Okay. Now, where is this being saved? On the iCloud?
It's all up in the cloud. Yes, it's up. It's everything's up in the cloud, and it's going to be in SharePoint and everything like that.
Okay.
So you're going to be able to access it from your phone. You're going to be able to access it from the computer. You're going to be able to you're going to be able to download it, desktop on your pretty much anywhere you're at. You're going to be able to access it.
Okay.
Okay. Maybe have a front desk office manager. So all of your forms and all the stuff that would relate to being an office manager front desk, they have a floor. And then internal accounting, you would probably want an internal accounting floor to manage your internal accounting, and that would be private. But you see how those might be some administrative floors that you would have for your accounting firm.
Sure.
Okay. Now, great that we've got admin stuff, but what about actually getting work done, right?
Right. Exactly.
So what about your 1040s, your business returns, bookkeeping, consulting, payroll? What are we going to do about those floors? Okay, well, let's talk about it. So once again, we're going to come in and we're going to create a floor for 1040s. Okay. So I'm going to create a floor for 1040s, and this is where we're going to have all our 1040 work. We got a front desk, which is the general channel, but we're going to come in and we're going to say, okay, we got Mike Brady. So we're going to create a channel or a room for Mike Brady. One for Bob and Helen Parr, one for George and Jane Jetson, and one for Abe and Mary Lincoln.
Okay.
So for every 1040 client, we're going to go in and give them their own room. And inside that room, we can have meetings about them. We can have internal communications about them. All their files are going to be stored there. Everything related to that client is in that room. Everything, communications, documents, everything is all in that room right there.
Our OneNote files could be saved in there.
We're going to kind of get to OneNote, but OneNote is you can access it from there, but kind of OneNote's going to be over to the side a little bit. Okay. But yes, but there is a OneNote notebook for each floor. Every floor has its own OneNote book. We'll talk about that a little bit down the road. Okay.
Okay.
And then everything like that. So you're going to go in and build a room for every client, right? But there's a problem. And in this case right here, we might want to put a private, on Abe Lincoln's because his stuff's a little sensitive, right?
Right.
So, but here's the problem though. Each floor only has 200 names, right? Or each floor or each team has only a limit of 200 rooms.
Okay.
A lot of people have more than 200 1040s, right?
Right.
So what we're going to have to do is we're going to have to create multiple floors.
Okay.
So for example, if you have 750 tax returns and you pretty much think that's kind of the peak of how many you want to basically take on, you would need a minimum of 4 teams, or if you have growth, 5 or 6 teams to give yourself room to, expand. Okay. So what you can do, there's 2 ways you can kind of split those rooms up. You can split them alpha, where it's like A to L, M to Z, A to G, H, O, P to Z. You see what I'm saying? So you can either split your rooms up by alphabetical or by partner. Okay. So if you had 3 partners and partner 1 had most of them, maybe partner 1 has like 250 returns. Well, you could split them up to 2, split him up to, or her up to 2 floors. Okay. And then partner 2 could have a floor and partner 3 could have a floor.
Okay.
That way,
Is there a limited number of how many floors you can have?
Yeah, it just is. You can have as many floors as you want. Caterpillar's using this, so think of how many floors Caterpillar has. Okay. So yeah, you can keep adding floors. And what's going to be cool is you don't even need to know where the room or the floor is. You can search for the room. So you can go in there and search for a client name and find the room without having to go to the floor. You can just search for it and go right to the room.
Okay.
Now, what about business returns? We can do the same thing too. We got a limit of 200. And depending on what type you have, you can either break it up by tax form, 1120Ss, 1120s, partnerships, 990s, or do a combination split, put all your S corps in one and then everybody else in another, or by partners. Okay. So we're going to split up our business tax returns and give them floors. Then we've got bookkeeping clients. Okay. You're going to go through there and you're going to give every bookkeeping client their own room. Okay. But I was talking to somebody the other day and he's like, I've got a really big bookkeeping client where I'm pretty much their outsourced bookkeeping department. I'm doing everything. I'm doing their bills. I'm doing their receivables. I'm pretty much their their external bookkeeping department. I'm like, well, guess what? We're going to give them their own floor. So you can go in, give an entire floor if it's really like, it's like you're like their accounting department. You don't want your client to come into a room by everybody else, right? Just give them their whole floor. And then when you give them their whole floor, guess what you can do? You can invite them in. And then you can set that up. Remember how we set up our accounting department, AR, AP, everything like this? Do the same thing for them. So you could go in and say, okay, I want to go to accounts payable for Acme. Boom, you're there. Okay. So that is how you can set up your bookkeeping floors. Okay, so this is kind of what a typical accounting firm 365 system would be. You've got your administrative floors down there. You've got a couple 1040 floors, your business return floors, a bookkeeping floor. You got one client that's really big, so they've got their own floor, and then you've got a consulting floor. But those are essentially going to be the teams that you're going to be setting up for your accounting firm. And then each 1040 client. So for example, if you're looking at, Mike and Carol Brady, well, you go to the 1040 8L floor and look for Brady. Does that make sense?
Wouldn't it be better to search for the client rather than going to a floor and trying to find it?
Bill, that's exactly right. You search for it. You nail it. You hit it right on the head. That's even the better way to do it, is just to search for it and get right to it. Yeah. So you're listening. So yes, you're exactly right. So do you understand the idea of how the team should be laid out in your 365?
And then each one of those rooms has their own file cabinet and everything for that particular client's data.
Yes. Okay.
Now, do we have to make up those separate file folders in our shared drive?
Yeah. Well, we're gonna get to that in a little bit. But yes, you're exactly right. But essentially, what you're gonna do though is that you actually lead us right into the next step. What tools and workspace do we actually get on each floor? Okay. So what tools are actually provisioned? Okay. Well, first of all, you're going to have something called chat and channel posts. Okay. So chat and channel posts are going to replace internal emails and internal phone calls and face-to-faces. Okay. So you're going to have a place to talk. You're going to have a place for videos, online meetings. So you can actually go in to the Mike and Carol Brady room and have a video, like a Zoom call in their room, save the recording in their room, and then anybody that wants to go in there and watch that meeting, they know where the video of that meeting is right now. If you had a Zoom call, could you basically record a Zoom call?
Yes.
Yeah. Where is it? If I was working on the Mike and Carol Brady, would I even know it exists? No. But if I go in the Mike and Carol Brady room in Teams, the video is sitting right there. Okay.
Now, could I invite Mike and Carol Brady to come into that team and view things?
Right now into a particular channel, not yet, but I think that's coming down the path. Microsoft's working on that.
All right.
Then we've got a SharePoint site. So every floor kind of has their own. Okay, so there's a huge corporate. Okay, so basically, probably the easiest way to think of this is every floor that gets created gets their own little mini server just for that floor. Okay. All right. And if you're on that floor, you have access to that server. And pretty much, unless you invite somebody else specifically, everybody that's on that floor, that's a member of that team that has access to that floor, has access to that mini server.
Okay.
Okay. And it's called documents. It's basically called documents. And okay. And that is the mini server for that floor.
Okay.
So you don't have to worry about sharing and giving access to everybody, because by default, Teams creates that little mini server on that floor.
All right.
Now that's kind of it's not quite that simple, but to understand it, I think that's the best way to understand it. Okay. So each floor comes with a place to talk and a place to have online meetings, and it gives you a mini server, and that's where you're going to save all your documents. Now it's technically SharePoint, but you won't even know that you're in SharePoint. You'll just be doing it through Teams. Okay. Also on that floor, they give you your own notebook already set up.
Okay.
So each floor is going to have its own notebook. And then from there, you're going to be able to go in and then use that team or floor notebook. Okay.
All right.
And then there's also a planner board where you can go in and set up a planner board to manage all of your tasks.
All right. Is that like Microsoft To Do?
It's like Microsoft To Do, but it's more of assignments where you're going to assign something. Microsoft To Do is more personal. It's for you. It's for you. A planner is where you're assigning your staff other stuff. Okay. Okay. So a planner is to manage your staff. To Do is to manage yourself. Okay. And then there's some other tools: Forms, Wiki, Power BI, and Stream. But let's focus on the first 5. Okay. All right. So inside here, the team communications. So when you come into Teams, you've got chat on the left-hand side. You see where the chat panel is right there? Right. This is a private chat. People overuse chat when they should be using channel posts. Okay. Because the chat is a private, like, hey, Bill, what are you doing for lunch today? It's just between me and you. All right. Or a very small group that, that's not related to what the company needs to know. All right. So it's really the chat is just really more personal back and forth. Okay. There's something called channel posts. Inside every room, there's something called posts. So if you need to talk about Mike and Carol Brady, right, you go to their room and post a chat. Okay. Okay. Because if you come in, if I say, hey, Mike did this, if I go into their room and post something about it, everybody else on the entire floor, if they go into Mike's room and look there, they're going to be able to see it. Okay. If me and you talk about Mike in a private chat, right, how are we going to tell the rest of the team about it? I don't know. They're not going to know. Okay. So if we have it in their room, the rest of the staff, can see it. All right. If it's a private chat between me. Now, maybe there is something that you and I just want to talk about just one-on-one and not let everybody know. That's what we do with the private chat. Okay. But if it's something that we want everybody ultimately to know, go to their room and post about it and chat in it in the posts. All right. Okay. Not only can you put text, but you can put files. You can put Microsoft Loop, which I'm going to be showing you coming down the road, which is really cool. Emojis, GIFs, and a bunch of other stuff. Okay. So it's not just texting. It's so much more. It's like texting on steroids. Then we can have meetings. Okay. Just like Zoom, which you're probably using, you're probably using Teams for this. You're already doing meetings. You're already doing phone calls. But inside here, you can also do meeting notes, and you can record it. So you can actually come in here. We can actually have a planning conversation about Mike or with Mike and actually record it and save it inside that room. All right. Okay. And then we can even chat about it while the meeting's going on, and it'll save it in this room too. And so can we share our screen in this just like we do in Zoom? Yep, we can share your screen and everything. Okay. And in some cases, what you can do, if you want to do some training, you can actually go in, start a meeting by yourself, record your screen, share your screen, record it, and actually show somebody how to do something. So you can actually go in, go to the training floor, go to your tax software room, and then start your own meeting.
Okay.
Share your screen and say, this is how you enter split assets in the depreciation program.
Okay.
And then hit done. Next time somebody comes into that training room, they can then see, oh, this is how I do this.
Okay.
So if you're ever training somebody, don't train one-on-one because that's dust in the wind. Great song by Kansas, but a terrible way to run your business.
Right.
Right? Go into the room, start a meeting, record it. Now you've basically taught everybody in the company. Okay?
That's cool.
Now we've got files. Well, you see where your documents. Okay, so right there it says files, right? You see it says
Right.
files right up there at the top. You click on
Yep, I see
that.
it.
That's going to actually link you to SharePoint.
Okay.
Okay, so you don't need to know it's in SharePoint, so you can access it from SharePoint, but all your documents, instead of sitting somewhere else, are just right by the communications. So posts are right there. You're talking about them, and then you click on files. And
now, is there a limit to how much data storage you can do in SharePoint?
Trust me, it's a lot.
Okay.
Yeah, a lot. Okay, now there are limits, but it's a lot. Okay.
Okay.
And then you can also have tabs. So if there are 3 files that are really important, you can have little tabs right across there and quickly get to them.
Okay.
And then also you can either work in Teams, you can open it up in SharePoint, you can open it up on your desktop app or File Explorer. So you're going to be able to link all of your rooms and floors and channels and everything. You're going to be able to your teams and channels or your floors and rooms to File Explorer.
Okay.
So it's, even though it's like it thinks it's in the cloud, it is in the cloud, but it's also on your desktop too.
Okay.
So just like Dropbox or anything else, you can go right to File Explorer and access your files. Then we've basically got OneNote. Okay. Every floor has its own OneNote notebook.
Okay.
What you're going to do is you're going to go in, you're going to basically have a link to it at the front desk or the general channel. So everybody sees it. They can click on it. They can open it up and then open up that notebook right into their OneNote.
Okay.
But that's how people are going to access the floor notebook. Okay.
All right.
Then you can go in and add a planner tab. So inside in this right here, I could actually add a planner board, put a tab up at the front desk. So everybody knows where the tasks are. They can come right inside there. And we can come in there and actually assign tasks to people and say, hey, go do this. Hey, go do this. Hey, go do this. Because right now, how are you telling people, how do you assign staff real easily?
Usually emailing them.
Yeah.
Or having a conversation with them.
And then do you remember? Do they remember? How do you know that they followed up?
No, and I forget about it.
Yeah. So right across the top there, you have a place to talk. You have their files. You have access to the OneNote. You've got access to their tasks, all about those topics, either by and then by room.
Okay.
Okay.
And that's above every room.
And that's above every room.
Okay.
Okay. Every room can add these stuff right across there. Okay.
Okay.
Basically, to add a team, it's very simple. All you do is go down, click join or create a team, click create a team, click from scratch. Mark either private, public, or org-wide. Chances are most of them will be private, by invite only. But if you want anybody to join, do public, and be very careful about the org-wide. Okay, and then once you do that, you invite the team members on who you want to be part of the team.
Okay.
If it's a private room. Then to add a channel, you go to the team, you click the 3 dots and click add channel, and then you give the channel a name, put a description. And then under privacy, 90%, 95% are going to be standard. And then if you need to, you can mark it private. And don't automatically leave that checkbox unclicked down there on number 6. Don't check that. Just let them decide what they want to see. Okay, because I've had more people just automatically check that and just kind of mess stuff up. But just leave number 6. Don't check that. And that's how you add a channel. And then to sync to the File Explorer, all you basically do is go to the general channel, go to files, go to documents, make sure you're in the root directory, which is documents. And then once you're there, click sync. The first time you do it, it's going to ask you to sign into OneDrive. and then you can just go to File Explorer, and you're going to be able to see all of those floors and rooms synced to your computer.
Wow.
Warning, 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 warning. Every channel is connected to a folder. Do not rename things. Do not change things in File Explorer. Just stay out of folders. You can access documents in File Explorer. Do not add folders or rename things. You will break it.
Okay.
Okay, I wish Microsoft didn't allow you to, but unfortunately they do. So if you're in File Explorer changing folders, you're ripping apart Teams. So don't do that. Okay. And then next week, because we're kind of running out of time here, we're going to start talking about managing files inside of Teams. Okay, whether you were working on it within Teams, SharePoint, File Explorer, and desktop apps, and what are the reasons why you want to be doing this? How we're going to be sharing files, working simultaneously, how you can collaborate inside these documents, and the different versioning. But we're going to really say this is why, even though 365 appears that it's in the cloud, it's the best of both. It can be on your phone, it can be in the cloud, it can be on your desktop, and everything's all synchronized together. And having files in 365 is really the cat's pajamas.
Okay. Now, so that people can be ready for our next time, is Microsoft Teams part of Office 365, or is that an add-on that they need to purchase?
No, basically, if you have 365 business or work, okay, if you have 365 work, you have Teams.
Okay.
That's what's great. You're already paying for it. You're already paying for this tool. So start using it, because it's going to bring all of this stuff into one place. But do you see how everything that, I mean, is there anything else that we left about on dealing with a client? Teams houses almost everything that you need to do to get your work done.
Okay.
Just go to the floor and go to the room, and everything you need to do is right there.
Pretty awesome. I'm waiting to get more into this.
Yep. No, it's, yeah, we're just going to basically go through, and over the next, couple months, we're going to be talking about all the different parts. We're going to talk about files. We're going to talk about chats. We're going to talk about meetings, and then some other stuff.
Okay.
Okay.
That sounds great. Thank you, Rob.
Yep.
And thank you, everyone, for joining us for our latest edition of MSATP TV. Thank you very much.
Have a good day.
You too.